I remember a young man I met years ago, fresh out of college and honestly, just terrified of the world. He had a good job lined up, a clear path, but something felt missing. On a whim, he cashed in his savings for a 3-month Eurail pass. His parents were worried, his friends thought he was crazy. He spent those months sleeping in noisy hostels, getting lost in winding medieval streets and sharing bread with strangers who didn't speak his language. He learned to navigate not just train schedules but human connections. That young man was in many ways me, and that single trip didn't just give me memories, it fundamentally rewired my understanding of my place in the world and set me on the path I still walk today. Travel has a unique power to take the person you are and introduce them to the person you could become. It's not just about seeing famous paintings or climbing ancient towers, it's about the spaces in between. Long train rides, shared meals, moments of confusion that blossom into understanding. You leave home with a suitcase full of clothes and a head full of expectations. If you're lucky, you come back with a suitcase full of laundry and a heart full of experiences that have completely reshaped your perspective on everything you thought you knew. The world is the most effective classroom I've ever known. It doesn't have chalkboards or scheduled lectures, but its lessons are far more impactful and enduring. One of the first lessons travel teaches is the art of problem solving. Imagine your train is canceled in a small German town where no one speaks English. Your phone is dead. Panic is a valid option, but it's not a productive one. Instead, you learn to use hand gestures, to draw pictures, to find a friendly face, to point at a map. You figure it out. You learn that you are more resourceful and resilient than you ever gave yourself credit for. This global classroom also teaches a profound lesson in humility. In our daily lives, we are often the experts. We know our jobs, our neighborhoods, our social circles, but when you're traveling, you are a student again. You don't know the local customs, you can't read the signs, and you might accidentally order a very strange dish for dinner. This experience of being a novice is humbling, and it's incredibly healthy. It reminds us that our way of doing things isn't the only way, and it opens our minds to learning from every single person we meet, university professor, street vendor. One of the greatest gifts of travel is learning to let go of control. We spend so much of our lives planning every detail, trying to mitigate every risk. But the road has its own plans. I once had an entire week in the Swiss Alps planned around a specific hike. The day I arrived, the rain began. It didn't stop for 5 days. My meticulous itinerary was ruined. At first I was frustrated. Then I started talking to the guest house owner. He told me about a local cheese-making festival in the next village, an indoor event I never would have considered. It ended up being the highlight of my trip. This is the magic that happens when you embrace the unexpected. Travel is a constant exercise in improvisation. Your well-researched restaurant is closed for a holiday. The museum you wanted to see is sold out. These aren't failures, they are invitations. They invite you to wander down a different street, to pop into a small, family-run trattoria, to discover a hidden park that wasn't in your guidebook. Some of my most cherished travel memories come from these detours, these happy accidents that weren't part of any plan. It's about turning a problem into an opportunity. There's a distinct moment on every trip, a turning point where you stop feeling like a disoriented tourist and start feeling a sense of place. It's the moment you navigate the subway system without checking the map, or when you can order your morning coffee in the local language. This is the beginning of confidence. It's not an arrogant confidence, but a quiet, internal assurance that you can handle yourself and adapt in an environment that is not your own. You are no longer just visiting, you are participating. This confidence is built brick by brick with every small success, finding the right bus, successfully asking for directions, figuring out the currency conversion, each one a small victory. I recall a trip to Portugal and feeling overwhelmed the first 2 days in Lisbon's old streets. On the third day I had a short, broken conversation with a shopkeeper about the weather. It was tiny, but it filled me with accomplishment. I had connected. From then on, the city felt less intimidating and more like a place I could belong. This process shows you're more capable than you think. At home, our competence is tied to routines. We know how to do our jobs. We know how to navigate our city. Travel strips that away and forces you to build new competence from scratch. When you succeed, you realize your ability to function isn't dependent on familiar surroundings. It's an internal skill. The confidence you gain from travel is different from the confidence you might get from a promotion at work. It's quieter, more personal, more profound. It's the calm assurance that comes from knowing you can handle ambiguity and uncertainty. A seasoned traveler doesn't panic when faced with a challenge. They see it as part of the adventure. They believe they can figure things out. because they've done it before. This isn't about being fearless, it's about knowing fear is manageable and that you're resourceful. This quiet confidence shows in how you carry yourself. You walk with an open, aware posture. You make eye contact with people. You're less afraid to ask for help. Most people are kind and willing to assist a stranger. You become a better listener. You get attuned to the nuances of your environment. You're not just rushing between tourist sites. You're observing the rhythm of daily life. You're comfortable being part of it, even as an outsider. This self-reliance ripples through your life. Travel is, honestly, the enemy of prejudice. It's so easy to hold on to stereotypes and fear the other when your only exposure is through news headlines or political rhetoric. But it becomes almost impossible to hang on to those prejudices when you're sharing a meal with a family in their home, playing soccer with kids in a dusty village square, getting help from a stranger when you're completely lost. Travel replaces those abstract caricatures with real, breathing, smiling human beings. It really forces you to see the humanity in people you might have once thought were fundamentally different from you. And these connections don't have to be deep, life-altering friendships to mean something. Sometimes it's just a simple hello or thank you in the local language. It's the smile you share with the person sitting next to you on the bus. Or maybe it's the shopkeeper who patiently explains the difference between two types of cheese. Every one of these small interactions is like a brick in the bridge of human understanding. They slowly chip away at the walls of fear and suspicion that we tend to build around ourselves and our cultures. I genuinely believe one of the most important things a traveler can do is to be a good ambassador for their own country. When you travel, you're not just an individual, you're a representative. Your kindness, your curiosity, and your respect for local customs can actually shatter negative stereotypes that people might hold about where you come from. By being a gracious and open-minded guest, you're engaging in a subtle but really powerful form of diplomacy. When you travel, you're, in a way, given a brand new pair of eyes. Suddenly, the world, which might have seemed black and white, just explodes into this brilliant spectrum of color. You realize there isn't just one right way to live. You realize there isn't just one right way to eat. You realize there isn't just one right way to work. You realize there isn't just one right way to be happy. Take Italy, for example. You might notice shops closing for hours in the middle of the day for a long lunch and a rest. At first that might seem so inefficient. Then you see families gathering, then you see the relaxed pace of life, and you start to question your own culture's obsession with constant productivity. This new perspective lets you see the underlying assumptions of your own culture. You start to notice things you never did before, like multi-generational families living together under one roof, built-in support systems. When you get back home, you might see the isolation of elderly people in a new, more critical light. Travel gives you a point of comparison, a totally different lens through which to view your own society. It helps you appreciate what's great about home, but it also shines a light on areas where we could learn from others. And this change in perspective applies to global issues too. It's one thing to read about poverty. It's one thing to read about climate change. It's another thing to meet a farmer whose crops have failed due to drought. Every journey really begins with a choice. It's the decision to step out of the familiar and into the unknown. That might mean a big leap, like booking a flight to a continent you've never visited, or it could be a small step, like exploring a neighborhood in your own city that you've never seen before. The scale of the journey doesn't matter nearly as much as the intention behind it. The goal is to open yourself up to new experiences, to be a student of the world, and to let yourself be changed by what you discover. The world is waiting, its lessons, its beauty, and its challenges, and you don't have to quit your job and travel for a year to experience this transformation. You can find it in a weekend. You can find it on a budget. The most important baggage you can bring on any trip is a curious and open mind. Leave your preconceptions at home. Be willing to be surprised. Be willing to be wrong. Be willing to get a little lost. The rewards for this kind of vulnerability are just, honestly, immeasurable. You'll come home not just with photos but with a richer understanding of yourself and your place on this remarkable planet we all share. So, I want to leave you with a question to ponder. Reflect on your own experiences, big or small, and ask yourself, how has travel changed you? And more importantly, where will you let it take you next?